If you're looking for some relatively inexpensive tool recommendations, you came to the right place. It's like 100 degrees in my garage today, so bear with me. I do have a fan running. Hopefully it's not, oh, let me show you my fan. Hopefully it's not too loud. But it's a Ryobi fan. I think I've showed this, like at least in the background in one of my videos, but it's a fan and it has misters on it, which is really cool. It kind of sucks that it's Ryobi. This is the only Ryobi tool I own, and I'm not hating on Ryobi, but it kind of sucks that I have to have dedicated battery just for this and another charger. But yeah, it spits out like a mist, and I think it lowers this garage at least 10 degrees, which is really worth it. It does make a little bit of a mess. I mean, it's squirting water out, but yeah, you just fill this 5-gallon bucket up with water, and it sucks it up, and you can take it anywhere. You can go to like the beach, or like your kid's soccer game or whatever, if it's like ridiculously hot out there like it is today. But yeah, let's get into it. These first 3 tools, they're going to be more like PPE type tools, not necessarily like hard metal, pliers or screwdrivers. They're more to protect you and the car, which I think are very important. So if you don't have these, consider getting these because they will go a long way. First tool we're going to look at is not really a tool, but I keep them in my toolbox. It's these Kevlar heat resistant sleeves. If you guys don't have these and you do any amount of wrenching, your arms will thank you. These are, like I said, heat resistant, so you can get right up next to a hot exhaust and you're not going to melt your skin. Anybody that's done any amount of wrenching knows that you just bump like an exhaust manifold and it just turns instantly white because like it just melts your skin. This prevents that. I mean, you'll get a little bit of smoke if you're running up next to like a red catalytic converter or something, but it's better than getting your whole arm like melted off, right? Also, if you're digging like down into an engine bay that just got off the freeway or something, fantastic. Like you don't have to worry. You just stick your hands in there, do what you need to do. Or like oil filters on a Subaru. You know how they're like, I don't know why they do that, but they have the exhaust manifold and the oil filters right in the middle. And like, if you want to protect your arms, just these are fantastic. They're like 20 bucks. And DuPont makes these. These are awesome too. I bought these ones because they have like a little thumb, so it holds this up. These DuPont ones don't have that, but either way, you can't really go wrong. Awesome, awesome value. The second thing I want to recommend, now this kind of goes along with PPE type equipment, but not so much for myself, more for the vehicle, and that is fender covers. Now, I know fender covers are fairly ubiquitous, and everybody knows about these. Some shops even provide these for the technicians to use, which is great. But there's 2 benefits to fender covers. One is fairly obvious. The other benefit, not so obvious. So the main benefit that people think about is, of course, it's going to protect the fender from damage. If you're doing a major service and you put these on a fender, it's going to prevent you from scratching it if you're leaning over the fender, or if you accidentally drop a tool, it's not going to dent the fender, right? So that's the main benefit that people think about. The second benefit that people don't think about, say you have these on a vehicle and a customer gets called in to look at their vehicle. If the customer has no idea what they're even looking at when the service writer is trying to show them something on the vehicle, one thing that they will know is what these are. This it doesn't take much to understand that these will protect your vehicle that is being serviced. It's not hard to grasp the concept of a fender cover. And so if a customer comes in and they see their fender is just covered in handprints, like oily handprints, and the service writers, oh, don't worry about that. We're going to take care of it. We put it through a car wash. That will be completely gone by the time we're done with it. The customer will be like, okay, that's all they're going to think about. Okay, if a technician can't take the time to protect their vehicle while it's being serviced, what else are they going to cut corners on? Whereas if you have a fender cover on while it's being serviced and a customer sees that, they're going to see a sense of professionalism that they wouldn't see if this wasn't on there. So that's the other benefit that some people don't really realize that these can offer. It lets people know that you care about the service that you're providing. It's something that I wish people would use and take advantage of more often. Last tool in this kind of PPE type category, it's not necessarily something I would put in my toolbox, but it is something I bring to work every day, at least when I was wrenching full time. And that is a belt like this. So this belt has no exposed buckle in the front here, so there's no way for me to scratch a vehicle that I'm working on. Say if I were going to lean over and my belt buckle would be exposed here. This is just, it's attached using Velcro. There are other designs. I always had good luck with this Velcro type design, so this is what I would recommend. This next tool is an actual tool, and it is vampire pliers. If you've seen any of my toolbox tours, you'll be very familiar with these. But what these are designed for are taking out stripped screws. So if you have a screw like this and it's stripped out, these are actually designed to be able to grab onto the head of that and remove them. These are also really good for like one-way screws or tamper-proof screws to get in there and remove them. Now, these are about $40. So they don't quite make the list, but the company that actually makes these and provides them for Vampire Tools is called Engineer. And it's the exact same tool, still made in Japan, same design and everything. It just doesn't have the Vampire logo on it. It's just made by Engineer. And those are $20. So I would highly recommend those. This next tool, I feel silly recommending these because they're such, they're small tools that I kind of take for granted. But some of you guys might not have these tools or know about them. So it's kind of fun to just kind of look at these tools and be able to talk about them. But this is a tool made by Lyle, and it's basically something that would go on the end of a die grinder, either angle die grinder or straight die grinder. But you can put these roll lock discs on the end, and it's got this long shaft here, right? And this spins independently, so you can hold on to this while the die grinder does its work, and it's really handy to get into tight spots, say like a thermostat housing, or if you're trying to clean up like the hub in between like lug nuts and stuff like that. Super handy, and again, under 20 bucks, can't beat it. Now, something that I've always had on all of my air tools, and I know air tools are not very popular anymore, but if you still use air tools, I use these little universal joints, and basically this just helps get into tight spaces a lot easier because you don't have that. The big thing about having an airline attached is that you have to go with the tool, but this just makes it really easy. I got this one from Cornwell. I'm not exactly sure who makes this, but there are other options on Amazon. It's just such a handy thing to have on all your air tools. Basically, if you're ever in a tight spot, it just makes it so that air can be moved out of the way. Pretty cool. Next tool here, I know a lot of you guys are going to be familiar with it, but if you're not familiar, this little handy clamp tool is for clamping onto hood struts. Sometimes they lose their ability to hold a hood up. You can just clamp this onto the hood strut to keep it from, coming back down. These are relatively inexpensive. You can get a couple of these. One word of caution with these: if you forget that this is on there and you go to shut the hood, it is really easy to damage a hood that way. I've seen it happen, and it's not pretty, so just be careful. Sometimes these will come with like a tag attached to it, so you don't forget it, but a lot of them don't have that, like this one. Just don't forget it. These also work great for trunks. The trunks sometimes have struts that hold them up, and if those aren't working very good, this will help. Now, I know that drum brakes are being phased out in favor for disc brakes for most applications. I know, like, you can get a brand new 2024 Tacoma and it still comes with drum brakes, but that's for a specific application. They have reasoning for using drum brakes on those. But if you're ever doing drum brakes, you can know how difficult it can be sometimes. But I always tried to find as many tools as I could at my disposal. And this is one that I used for the springs. They have a bunch of different tools that you can use for taking off springs, but this is one that I used quite a bit. And it's a tool made by Belial, and basically the spring, the return spring, whatever spring you're dealing with, can fit inside of here, and then you can just twist the handle and it'll clamp onto that spring. And so this gives you a lot more leverage when you're dealing with the spring, and a little more precision when you're trying to put it back to where it goes. So something I definitely recommend. Better to have it and not need it than wish you had it while you're dealing with those drum brakes and then not have it. So something I'd pick up. This next tool I kind of wanted to recommend because it's something that I got way later in my career, and I wish I had gotten it sooner. But everybody's seen these. You have the stripping tool in the front here, and then in here is a way you can crimp insulated and non-insulated butt connectors and stuff. These are solid, but if you're able to, I would definitely pick up a dedicated crimper like these. These are made by Greenlee. They have a lot of manufacturers that make these. I've loved these, and the thing that makes these different from something like this is the amount of leverage that you have and control over the crimping process. So this works, but this is so much better because the force that you're able to apply on the end here is so much greater. These are already longer, so they're higher leverage. These have diagonal cutters on the end here, and you're able to crimp insulated and non-insulated butt connectors. Since we're on the subject of crimping, I know you guys are all aware of these butt connectors. These are basically have the crimp on the middle, and then they have heat shrink tubing on the outside, and then they usually have like some sort of adhesive on the inside that melts when you get these hot enough to shrink. It makes these have a watertight seal. These are fantastic. I've used these for many years, and they do a great repair. I've never had a failure due to using these butt connectors. But it's not my preferred method of crimping or repairing wires. I like using these non-insulated butt connectors, and there's a couple of reasons why I like using these. And this is basically the same thing that's in here, just without the insulation. And so I like using these because two reasons. Number one, if you look at these crimps, right, you have an insulated section and a non-insulated. The insulated keeps this heat shrink tubing from getting ripped up when you're crimping on these. Because if you don't use that insulated section, then you just poke a hole in this heat shrink tubing, and it's kind of worthless of having it on there at all. Whereas if you're using the non-insulated, look at the crimp that's up there. Look how much more aggressive that is. Like, I feel like I get such a tighter crimp using these non-insulated ones versus the insulated ones. So that's number one. The second reason, whenever I make a repair to a vehicle, it kind of doesn't matter what it is, I try to make it to where it looks like nobody has ever been in there before. You can't tell that it has ever been repaired. That's what I typically shoot for. And when you use things like this, they have rainbow colors and stuff. They're a great repair, but as soon as you see something like this, you're like instantly, oh, that's been repaired before. Somebody's been in here before, right? Whereas these, you can crimp these down, and then they have black marine grade heat shrink tubing, 3-to-1 shrink ratio with adhesive in it. Makes it a complete watertight seal, and it's black. It doesn't have all these rainbow colors, and it makes it look so much more OEM and factory looking compared to something that sticks out like this. Like this just, it screams repaired to me. But like I said, these aren't bad. It's just not my typical go-to repair situation method. So yeah, that's where I'm at. This next tool is great if you're doing like head gaskets and things like that. This is just a straight edge. I didn't have one for a long time because I thought these were really expensive, and this one's like 20 bucks. And it stayed true, and I've had it for a long time. And like I said, it hasn't warped on me or anything like that. These are great for checking the mating surfaces of like your deck, of your block, or your head, to see if you need to make a run to the machine shop before you put it all back together. Great tool to keep in your box. And if you haven't used one of these, basically what you do is you set it on top of the head surface or the block where they're going to meet, where the head gasket goes, and you can check to see if it's warped by putting this across. And you can try to put feeler gauges in certain areas. The service manual will kind of tell you what the tolerances should be with that. But it basically, if having this is definitely handy, and it kind of saves you some time. They make different sizes of this because sometimes this size won't fit where you need it to, and also this size sometimes isn't big enough. If you have like a really big engine, you might need something bigger. But yeah. This is an awesome tool. This next one I've had for a very long time. I've used it several times, and it's kind of saved me throughout the years. But it's a fin comb, and basically use this to straighten the fins on like a radiator or condenser. And not only is it good for helping out like heating problems, like if your radiator isn't cooling down enough, and you notice that it's because all the fins are bent. This will, it'll go in and straighten them all, which is very, very handy. But what I used it for most was, say if I'm working on the inside of the radiator next to the engine, right, and I accidentally bump the radiator. Those fins are super, super fragile, and without a doubt, you can tell that somebody has bumped it on the inside. It's not like a rock hit it from the outside. Somebody was obviously in there, and I would always fix those fins using this. Basically, like I said, it makes it look like nobody has ever been in there before. Whereas if you leave those indents in the fins, number one, it's not going to cool as well. Number two, people are going to definitely see that somebody was in there, dented it, and just left it like that. So very handy tool. Again, under 20 bucks, and it has a bunch of it comes with two different combs, so you can unscrew this, and so it's got like 6 on this one, and the other one has another 6 as far as spacing goes. But handy tool, and I would highly recommend this tool. Next tool is one that I really haven't used a ton, but when I have used it, it has saved my butt, and I was so thankful that I had it. And it is this guy. And if you're not familiar with what this is, basically it's a manifold spreader. So if you're ever using or installing those older cast iron exhaust manifolds, this will help. And it, like, sometimes they don't quite line up, so you can't get the bolt in there. It's incredibly frustrating, but if you can get this in between the runners, you can push that flange over to where you can get that bolt threaded into that hole to where you can get the manifold mounted. And it's incredibly difficult to do it without this. It's pretty much impossible to do it if you don't have something similar to this. These are relatively inexpensive again, and just having this in your toolbox can save you at some point. The last tool I want to show you guys, I probably shouldn't have waited to show you guys this last. It's just these hooks for holding calipers up. If you're not in a space where these are very common, you may not know about these, but basically these hold your calipers off of the line, so that when you remove them from the bracket, they don't just hang from the hose. These are fantastic, and believe it or not, these are actually just from the dollar store. These are just for hanging plants. And I picked up a few of these. So one thing I will mention is that the ones that are specifically made for mounting calipers are really bright colors, so you don't forget them. I would recommend getting those because they're super cheap and they're brightly colored, unlike these are just black. But yeah, that's the last tool. And with that being said, I hope somebody out there gets a benefit from this video. I know a lot of these tools are fairly basic, and most of you may have them already, but I'm not going to judge. I know a lot of people watch this channel, and they may not know as much as the next person. So I always try to make sure that people are on the up and up, and they have the ability to look at tools like this and say, you know what, I could use that. I'm going to add it to my list. If you have a toolbox that you would like to have featured on this channel, you can hit me on Instagram at Toolbox Tours, or just send me an email. And yeah, till the next one, we'll see you. Quick announcement, I'm going to be leaving the country for about 2 weeks. So I'm not going to have a video out until maybe 3 weeks from now. So I apologize. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get a toolbox tour where I'm going, but I don't have anything lined up, so I can't make any promises. It's just a family vacation that we've been planning for a long time. But yeah, we'll see what happens. See ya.